In this video, we'll be discussing about ions. So atoms, as we all know, contain electrons, protons, and neutrons. Overall, an atom is neutral in nature as it has equal number of positive and negative charges. As we all know, protons always carry a positive charge, whereas the electrons, which revolve around the nucleus, always carries a negative charge. So in any given atom, the total number of protons will be equal to the total number of electrons, and that's why both of them cancel out and an atom is always neutral. Let us look at some examples. Take the case of oxygen atom. So the atomic number of oxygen is 8, and as we all know, the atomic number is indicated by the letter Z. Now, this gives us information that the oxygen atom has a total of 8 protons in its nucleus. And we all know that protons are positively charged. Protons are positively charged. Also, the oxygen atom will have 8 electrons that revolve around the central nucleus. So if we see, the electrons are negatively charged. Now if we take both the positive and negative charges here, so it has plus 8, this is for the protons, and minus 8 for the electrons. So a neutral oxygen atom has 8 protons in its nucleus. It also has 8 electrons revolving around the nucleus. Now both of them cancel out because the charges are opposite, so it has a net charge of 0. So the oxygen atom has a net charge of 0. We can look at another example. This time let's take sodium. Sodium is represented as Na. The atomic number of sodium is 11. So because the atomic number is 11, sodium atom will have 11 protons in its nucleus. The sodium atom has 11 protons in its nucleus. So protons are positively charged, so it has a total charge of plus 11. Now because this atom is neutral, it will also have 11 electrons that are revolving around the nucleus, and we know that although the nucleus also contains neutrons, neutrons don't have a charge. Neutrons are neutral in nature and hence do not possess any charge. Okay, so now if we see, we have plus 11 because there are 11 protons, and minus 11 because 11 electrons. So again these both cancel, and the sodium atom is also neutral, or it has a total charge of 0. However, when atoms or elements lose electrons or gain electrons, they get a charge on them. As we all know, electrons carry a negative charge, and if any element loses or gains electrons, then they can develop a charge. So the charged particles of atoms are called ions. The charged particles of atoms are called ions. So they carry a specific net charge which can be positive if it has lost its electrons, or it can also be negative if it has gained a couple of electrons. So cations are the ions produced by atoms when they lose one or more electrons. So when an atom loses one or more electrons, it gets a positive charge. Now let's take the case of sodium. Sodium is designated as capital N small a, has an atomic number of 11. Now sodium can lose one electron to form this ion Na plus. So this superscript indicates that the sodium atom has lost one of its electrons. If you look at the electronic configuration of sodium, we should write it as 2, 8, 1. Okay. So the first shell of sodium atom has 2 electrons. Second shell has a total of 8 electrons. And the third shell has only 1 electron. It has only 1 electron in its outermost shell. Because this is the last shell that contains electrons, this is called the valence shell or the outermost shell. So the outermost shell of sodium atom contains 1 electron. Okay, so 2 electrons in its first shell, 8 electrons in the second, and 1 electron in the outermost shell or the valence shell. Now sodium would want to give off this electron because it can reach the electronic configuration of the nearest noble gas, which is neon. Okay, so sodium has total 11 electrons, with the last electron being in the outermost shell. Okay, now sodium can easily give away this electron, because if it loses that electron, then this will become its valence shell, and its valence shell will be completely filled with electrons. So any atom that has its outermost shell or valence shell completely filled with electrons will be stable. So for this reason, sodium will want to give away this 1 electron, and if it happens to give it away, it can form Na plus. So the superscript plus indicates that the atom has lost 1 electron. It has lost 1 electron. Similarly, if you look at another case, let's take oxygen, which is designated as O. The atomic number of oxygen is 8, which means oxygen has 8 protons in the nucleus, which are positively charged. So we have 8 positive charges here. Similarly, it will also have 8 electrons that are revolving around the nucleus. It will have 8 electrons that are revolving around its central nucleus. Now, if we will write the electronic configuration, it will be 2, 6. So again, the first shell of oxygen can hold 2 electrons, while the second shell of oxygen contains 6 electrons. Now, as we discussed earlier, neon is the nearest noble gas for oxygen, and neon has a total of 10 electrons. Its electronic configuration is 2, 8. Now oxygen has 2 electrons less than the nearest noble gas element, which is neon. So oxygen atoms usually tend to accept 2 electrons so that it can also attain the electronic configuration of neon and can hence become stable. So when oxygen gains 2 electrons, we denote it as O2 minus. So this indicates that this oxygen atom has gained 2 electrons. It has gained 2 electrons. So this is called the oxide ion. This is called the oxide ion, and O2 minus will now have 2, 8. So this is the electronic configuration for the oxide ion, while this is the electronic configuration of the oxygen atom. Okay, so now oxide ion is also stable because it has achieved the electronic configuration of neon by having its outermost shell completely filled up with electrons. Okay, so if we see Na plus, neon, and oxygen 2 minus. Okay, so the atomic numbers of these 3 elements are different. However, they all contain the same number of electrons. Neon has 10 electrons. Sodium, by losing its 1 electron, now only has 10 electrons. Because the oxide ion has taken up 2 electrons, now that will also have a total of 10 electrons. And all these 3 are stable because they have their outermost shells completely filled up with electrons. So this is about this small topic on ions. So ions are charged particles. So ions are formed when atoms either gain or lose their electrons. Okay, so cations are always positively charged because cations are formed when electrons are lost from a neutral atom. Anions are formed when electrons are gained by neutral atoms.